This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
Couple of games that I think are extremely fun on tap for tonight. Got the Bills at the Falcons, Bears at Commanders, Jaden Daniels taking on Caleb Williams, Josh Allen taking on Michael Penix, and a kind of fun Atlanta defense as well. So a lot of good stuff to break down for tonight. We're going to dive into both those games, lay out my read on the spread and totals of both those, and my favorite props at FanDuel Sportsbook. Welcome on into Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, here to preview the two Monday Night Football games for Week 6, the Bills at Falcons and Bears at Commanders, and let you know where I'm seeing value for tonight at FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll dive into all that here in just 1 second, but first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the Covering the Spread podcast feed and the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page. Leave us a thumbs up there. Make sure you turn on notifications on the YouTube side of things, on the Covering the Spread podcast feed, 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We're here Monday through Friday, breaking down both college football and the NFL. Tomorrow, going through every single NFL Week 7 game, breaking down my thoughts on spreads and totals and my favorite bets at FanDuel Sportsbook for this week. Again, Covering the Spread podcast feed, FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page. Subscribe to both those. Thumbs up on YouTube and turn on notifications there as well. FanDuel's getting you ready for kickoff with an offer you won't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. NFL season is finally here. Only question is, are you ready to play? Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/Chat Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's dig in now to the first game on this Monday Night Football doubleheader. That is the Bills at the Falcons. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Bills favored by 2.5. That is down from 4.5 earlier this week. Total in this game is still a juicy 49.5. I've got this one pretty much in line with market in both of those. I got the Bills by 4.6. So was more in line with market when it was sitting out there at 4.5. I don't see enough value to take the Bills at 3.5. If you were to force me to bet this game, probably would go that way. But honestly, pretty easy stay away from me there. I got this total of 51.2. So a lean towards the over for me. But that 49.5 is minus 118, and 49 is a key number for betting totals. Not as important as like 47 or 44, but it is still a key number in a sense for betting totals. Do get a win at 51, which is also a key number there. But it's minus 118. So I'm not seeing value in either the spread or the total for this game, but I do think that we should lean towards the Bills and lean towards the over. That will influence the player prop market and what I'm seeing there. Because if I'm going to be enthusiastic, optimistic about one side, it will be this Buffalo Bills offense and what we're seeing there. My favorite prop in this game actually is on the Buffalo side because of those thoughts, where I think their offense will be able to move the football pretty effectively here, and I think they'll be able to do so specifically through the air. So let's talk about Josh Allen. Right now, his passing yardage prop at FanDuel Sportsbook is 228.5. Over is minus 112. That, to me, is a very fun number that I want to get to. Now, Atlanta's defense has been awesome at generating pressure so far this year. Those investments they made along the defensive line are finally paying dividends, and they're getting to the quarterback. But the Bills' offensive line has been really good at stopping pressure. It's both because Josh Allen is a really good, smart, intelligent quarterback, but also because they've got some dudes up front. They've held up really well, even when you adjust to the opponents they faced so far this year. So I don't expect Atlanta's superpower, quote unquote superpower defensively, to be as big of an issue for the Bills as it would be for some other teams. So I think the passing offense will be good. Rushing offense, maybe not as much, because the Atlanta Falcons, once you adjust for schedule, have allowed the lowest explosive run rate to opposing running backs this year. That's while facing the second highest average depth of throw, again, adjusted for schedule. So they're good against the run, don't allow a lot of explosives. They get pressure, but the Bills stop that, and they let up the long ball at a pretty high rate. The Bills haven't always gone deep. They're about average as far as their adjusted yards or their air yards per attempt, but they are now indoors versus typically playing in wind, facing a team that will let up the long ball, and they don't let up a lot of explosives on the ground. That's a good setup for Josh Allen to finally cook through the air. Now, I don't want to predict where it will go because Dalton Kincaid is banged up. We see Keon Coleman pop up for now and then, Khalil Shakir. Predicting which receiver will benefit is going to be tough, but I do think we'll see Josh Allen throw, and I think we'll see him throw efficiently, which is good enough for me. So I want to take Josh Allen over 228.5 passing yards. That is minus 112 at FanDuel Sportsbook for tonight. Again, as far as the receivers go for the Bills, I don't really want to try to play whack-a-mole with this receiver core. Keon Coleman's prop is 38.5. That's pretty low for him, given that they do let up the long ball, and he can't obviously get that, but faced some team discipline last week, which is concerning always. Khalil Shakir, 48.5. James Cook, 12.5. Josh Palmer, 18.5. I don't really feel the need to go towards any individual because it could be a Khalil Shakir crosser that goes for 40 yards. It could be a Keon Coleman deep ball for 80. And I'd rather just take the Josh Allen total passing yardage prop instead and go that way. So that's the first place we're going to turn to here. I did want to look at the running backs on Atlanta because, as you remember from that Baltimore game in the opener, you can bully the Bills on the ground. If you are a big physical team, and the Falcons occasionally do want to be that, you can have success against this Bills team on the ground. So I wanted to look that way with either Bijan Robinson or Tyler Algier, but honestly just couldn't quite get there. Robinson's rushing yardage prop is 73.5. That's not bad by any means. But his rushing plus receiving prop is 111, which is very, very high. I understand why it's high because he's had 100 yards from scrimmage, I believe, in every game so far this year. Yeah, 111 or more in every game so far this year. As far as the rushing yardage specifically, though, it's been in the 70s outside of one game where he had 143. He had 24 in week one. So that one's pretty volatile. I didn't really want to go there. And for Tyler Algier, I worry if they fall behind, Algier maybe fades out of the game plan because he does fit the physicality kind of mold that you want against this Bills team. But if they fall behind, they're going to lean heavily on Bijan, and Algier will go under this number pretty easily. So when I look at these two numbers with Robinson 73.5 and Algier 30.5, couldn't get there. Did look at the rushing plus receiving number for Bijan Robinson as well. Again, it was it's a big number. It's understandably big. You understand why it's there, given what he's done. 110.5 now. So he's gone over that in all 4 games, but that's a small sample. So if you were to force me to pick, I'd probably take that number for Bijan, the rushing plus receiving, but that's a really high number. There are spots where they fall down this game. So I'm going to go ahead and just pass on the Falcons side of things. Well, I do want to keep an eye on receiving props for the Falcons, kind of see what pops up eventually later on. As of now, no Casey Washington props for the Falcons. Do you want to see what his status winds up being? Because there's obviously no Darnell Mooney in this game, and we saw Washington be pretty heavily involved when Mooney was out earlier on this year. So someone's going to benefit from the Falcons. I'm just not sure necessarily who it's going to be. So I do want to keep an eye on the markets for the receivers here. I'm not really super into Ray McLeod. He didn't earn a lot of targets. 18.5 is low without Mooney, which is encouraging at least. Kyle Pitts 40.5. That's not a low number. Bijan 31.5. Drake London 74.5. So honestly, I wanted to buy into some Falcons stuff, just couldn't quite do so. Not enough where I like unders necessarily, but also could not talk myself into an over. So for me, the lone prop I like in this game, Bills at Falcons, will be that Josh Allen passing yardage prop, 228.5 at minus 112. Let's take a look now at the other game for tonight, a game that I am very excited for because I think both these quarterbacks are a lot of fun. That is the Chicago Bears taking on the Washington Commanders. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook. The Commanders favored by 5.5. Total in this game is 49.5. Now, I sound surprised when I say Commanders by 5.5. That's not because of, I think that's wrong. I would have 4.8, so I'm not there, but I don't think it's wrong necessarily. I'm more so surprised because this Bears team is getting a lot of hype entering their bye week, and they've now had that bye. They've allowed themselves to get Ben Johnson, get that Ben Johnson system more acclimated to their team. And so I kind of thought we'd see more Bears enthusiasm coming out of the bye, especially with no Noah Brown, no Terry McLaurin for the Commanders once again. We are not getting that. So I'm a bit puzzled, I guess, honestly, because again, I'm not far off this number. I had 4.8, but I thought we'd see some more Bears enthusiasm, and that has not happened, at least thus far. Total in this game, 49.5. I have at 48.7. So a big part of that is the weather. There will be some wind, potentially some rain in Washington for tonight. Don't care as much about the rain. It's more about the wind. I think we'll see passing games be potentially a bit suppressed. Maybe that's why we've seen some movement towards the Commanders and away from the Bears in this game is the Bears running game kind of stinks, whereas the passing game is good. And that's how you beat the Commanders is via the air. So maybe that's why the market has moved this way. I think it's an overreaction if so. But for me, no real value on either the spread or the total. Slight lean towards the Bears on the side perspective, but a slight lean towards the under. And I think that we want to keep the weather in mind. Because of the weather, I've got a couple of props I like in this game. These two bets are very much tied together, and I think they could set up well for an SGP if you're looking for one of those around this game. That would be starting with Jaden Daniels passing yardage. Under 221.5 is minus 114. I think that's the right way to go. And that's not due to skepticism around Daniels. I love Jaden Daniels, and I think he looked really good against the Commanders last week. It is all due to the rain or the weather combined with the way this Bears defense sets up. They have really struggled to stop the run this year. They've actually let up the highest explosive run rates to opposing running backs this year once you adjust for schedule, which could allow the Commanders to move the ball on the ground here. But the Commanders' passing game is also banged up. Again, no Terry McLaurin, no Noah Brown. So I think they'll want to run it, and I do think they will be able to, and it'll skew that way even more so if they were to get a lead. So when we're looking at Jaden Daniels, I think that they'll be willing to ground and pound a bit here, and they should be able to do so as well. This Commanders team, whether it's been McNichols, Rodriguez, or Krosky Merritt, they have all been able to bust off explosives on the ground. And again, the Bears have let up those at a pretty high rate. Ashton Genty had his big breakout game against this Bears team. So to me, that says, even though I love Jaden Daniels and think that he will play effectively in this game, I'm not sure the volume will be there. So I'll take the Jaden Daniels under 221.5 passing yards. That is minus 114 at FanDuel Sportsbook as the first bet I like in this game. The second bet is very much tied to that. As mentioned, think the Commanders will be willing to run the football here, think they'll be able to run the football, and they'll be able to do so effectively. When they do that, I think it's going to be predominantly with Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. His rushing yardage prop is 69.5 over his minus 114. I do like that number. And I want to go towards a rushing prop specifically because of the injuries in the Commanders' backfield. Chris Rodriguez did not practice at all this week, and he hasn't been ruled out, but there is a very good chance he sits out of this game. And if you take out Rodriguez, that's going to boost the rushing for Krosky Merritt. If you were to take out Jeremy McNichols, it would benefit Krosky Merritt's receiving. He's the kind of guy who could dip his toes in both waters, whereas those guys tend to be more siloed off, rushing for Rodriguez, receiving for McNichols. So with Rodriguez at least not fully healthy, I think we'll see more early down work for Krosky Merritt. And frankly, that could happen anyway because of what he did last week. On a 49% snap rate, Krosky Merritt had 14 carries, 2 targets, and 150 yards scrimmage. He might have had more work had he not had so many big plays. Like he had a bunch of long balls, a touchdown in there. And that's fully in play again here. We could bust off those long runs because of the Bears have struggled to stop the run so far this year. So he gets a great matchup against the Bears. He is at home. His team is favored. The weather is not amazing, but also not like detrimental to the point where it's going to kill all offense. It kind of just checks too many boxes for me to not want to be here. So I do think that Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt over 69.5 rushing yards and minus 114 is a very viable look. if you were looking at these plays individually, I mentioned you could tie them together. I think you could go with the Krosky Merritt rushing plus receiving. He's gotten some work in the passing game, at least more than I thought he was going to when he came out of college. So I think you could go with the rushing plus receiving yardage prop if you were not on the Daniels passing yardage prop. However, because I am on the Daniels passing yardage prop, and I would prefer to go with just the rushing yardage where it can win both bets. They can kind of help each other, but be mutually beneficial if Krosky Merritt were to bust off a long one. So that's why I want to go with just the rushing here for Krosky Merritt in this game. Again, even if Chris Rodriguez does play, he's not fully healthy. That's enough to bump up Bill. So we'll take Bill over 69.5 rushing yards at -114 at FanDuel Sportsbook. As far as touchdown props, honestly, in both this game and the other game, I didn't see any value. There was the slightest bit of value last night on Jalen Lane. He was 6-1. He's now plus 550. I have him at plus 580. So it was like the tiniest bit of value. That's no longer there with his shortening. So given how high the totals are, it's going to be hard to get there because obviously books do react to the totals. My model reacts to totals too, but I'm not showing value in either over necessarily by a wide margin. So didn't see a touchdown bets, which is a bummer for me because I actually have a model for that and do enjoy a good touchdown bet every now and then, but didn't see any value there. So the only bets from me for tonight will be the Jaden Daniels under 221.5 passing yards -114, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt over 69.5 rushing yards -114, and then Josh Allen over 228.5 passing yards. That is -112. That is all that we have here for today on Covering the Spread. Back with you once again tomorrow. Going to go through all Week 7 NFL games, break down my thoughts on the spread and totals, and lay out early bets that I like at FanDuel Sportsbook. To get that as it is posted, subscribe to the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page or the Covering the Spread podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. Again, 5 stars there, but also a thumbs up on YouTube, and turn on notifications there to get these shows as they go live Monday through Friday. Got any questions for me? I am on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes, on Threads at Jim.Sannes, and check out FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work in the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your bets on Monday Night Football. Enjoy what should be 2 very fun games. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow for our Week 7 first look. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.